welcome to this week's Fireside Chat with Jesse. I am joined today by Bob Rinaldi, founder and president of Rinaldi Advisory Services. Thanks for joining me, Bob.
You betcha. It's been a little bit of a while. Last time I think we did this, I was hibernating in a cigar humidor because the only place I could find quiet.
But no, and I had to figure out a way to try to show up the cigar humidor with this background. So,
yeah,
it's been about 18 months.
Well, you must be really doing good for yourself. I mean, that must take you a long time cutting the grass in the background.
It's exhausting, let me tell you, especially putting up all these pool tents every day. It's
every day. I mean, what a backyard.
So someone's got to do it. However, I saw that you were in a humidor and I'm like, the consulting gig, that must be where you want to be. So,
Oh yeah. It's a thrill a minute. No, loving every bit of it. So, well, I guess something new, right? Maybe I should turn the turret on you a little bit. Instead of you interviewing me, Jesse, what are you doing these days?
Yeah. We'll go with that format, but I'm not gonna let you off the hook for some updates on Rinaldi Advisory Services either. So
we'll see.
We'll
see. I mean, yours might be so exciting. I might not want to go after. I mean, after all, look at where you're living. I mean, what a backyard.
I have a temporary visa for a whole 4 days in the Playa del Carmen, but gotta take it when you can get it, I suppose, right?
Yeah, you got it.
Even this country will probably kick me out after 4 days. They're like, you gotta go.
Hey, you're welcome. I get it. So do I.
But no, I mean, I owe a lot of the current success that I have to you, as I was at my previous organization for a couple of years and was trying to figure out what I wanted to do next. And, the consulting, I mean, you know how this is. It's like you get some clients and you need to have some pillars of customers to kind of help that leap of faith, right? It's not like it's a continual 9 to 5 where it's like steady stuff coming in here and there.
Right.
It's like, oh, wait, I have a client. Okay, I got to do this. Well, who else is going to do this? Like, no, you have to do this. You have to do that and more.
Exactly. Well, that's so now. Consult Disrupt is full-time 24/7.
Yeah, I would say probably at least 20 hours a day, 7 days a week. But it's fun. We just got our 10th, kicked off our 10th project last week. Anything from fractional resources to doing RFPs to, I would say the traditional consulting role, especially in this industry. From an operations and technology perspective, you have people that kind of come in and they just kind of set the strategy, and then they're like, well, I'm here if you need me. The challenge with that is who's going to do the actual work.
Right.
So not only do we provide the former, but we also have resources that can put hands on keyboards to actually get the work done. And not only the initial work, but it's the ongoing work, it's the ongoing maintenance, the continual system functions that equipment finance companies have.
Sure. And that's always a need. At least something I always see with even a lot of my clients. I mean, there's strong on the business side, but when it comes to anything systems related, the top people in the organization now have to kind of moonlight and do some of that work too and figure it all out. And, having somebody actually do the work and help design it for you and then let them run with it versus the CEO and the chief operations officer and, you name it, CFO now, being sequestered doing stuff they're really not, they're not trying to do. That's not their forte. Their forte is doing business and making money for the company, not, something like systems and system development and system determination. What's the best system? And, what's the total strategy for the technology? Where are we going with all this? But once you decide, then somebody's got to do that too, right? You got to do the the QA work has got to get done. Somebody's got to go through all that. The conversions, testing of the conversions, and then figuring out where it's screwed up. And, and then before you know it, you're 5 months behind, you're 6 months behind, and you're $100,000 over budget. Yeah.
It all takes more time and more money. And the challenge is it's, you have an equipment finance company that knows equipment finance, a lease accounting software company that knows lease accounting software. Well, you hope they do, right? And then it's okay, you do this, you do that. And well, what about the stuff in the middle? Like, what do you mean I have to give you this? And it's like, well, you know your system better than I do. You tell me what to do. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. And I kind of learned that the hard way on selling software, where it wasn't the 100 systems that were successful, it was the half dozen that weren't. And when you start to look back and do a retro, the commonalities, where it was like, well, they didn't get us this in that period of time, so we just moved on to the next project. And it's wait, what? Like, so being there at the beginning of these projects, understanding kind of the main objectives of what we're looking to accomplish, and it's holding not only the software companies accountable, but more importantly, the leasing companies who are hiring us accountable for, it's like, hey, look, yes, there's a shiny object. You don't need that shiny object. That shiny object was not identified up front. If you introduce that project risk, then here's what's about to happen. And it's no one's fault. It's just the nature of what we do, where it's like, well, we saw it.
Yeah. Now, but that's a kind of a discipline. Whereas on the sales side and business development side, you're trying to make stuff happen. It's not something you should try to do in systems, launches of systems, is make something different happen. I find people try to do too much customization right up front and make the system do the way they're doing it versus re-engineering their own business processes, right? Before you go into that.
No, absolutely. I mean, any of these lease accounting platforms, and there's not many of them, they should at least do 80% what you need out of the box.
Right.
But there is going to be that element. I mean, you've been in this industry longer than I am. We have some independents that just do certain things and they make profit because of the specialization in that certain item.
Right.
So, the challenge that they have is those systems aren't set up to handle that one thing. Right. So there needs to be some layer of customization at some point in time in the project. And that's where it's organizations like you introduced me to, like you have a Leventis who has those developers. So if you bring in like a BA type person who can help write all those requirements, they have development resources. They can help take some of that, off of the, software organizations, because why are they going to build that one thing that's going to take them time if it's not repeatable? Right.
And there's kind of a new name in our industry over the past 5 years, right? Leventis, that's one of your clients, consulting clients.
They're one of the clients you introduced me to, and it's Dan. I mean, Dan and Sam started that thing. I mean, I want to say I think they've been around since 2014, but they've only really started going to equipment finance shows in the last 3 to 4 years.
Right.
But they'll continue to do a good job just based on some of this work that we're collaborating on. And it's nice to be able to have kind of an ace up your sleeve, because I'm sure you run into this all the time when you're like, okay, well, who's going to build that, Bob? Bob, you came up with this idea. You told me that someone else is doing this. All right, Bob, do it for me.
Yeah,
it's like,
exactly.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Like,
did I say that?
Wait, I said these people were doing that. With that to do that.
So what are the range of things that you are doing besides staff augmentation and resources to actually get the hands on keyboards, getting the work done? What on a technology side, where do you start? Where do you end as far as what you're doing? And what the capabilities of what Leventis is doing? What is that all about?
Yeah, so I mean, from me perspective, I'm basically serving as a big connector, right? I mean, I've been fortunate where I've been in equipment finance for 18 years. This industry is, I owe everything to the equipment finance industry, right? Without my connections in the industry like yourself, I would not be in this situation. So fortunately, I've been able to work with certain individuals like a Christy Rigger or a Jamie Haber, where I know where their skill sets lie, and you match the right opportunity with an equipment finance company or even a service provider with the right consultant. So from your perspective, right, when people are like, hey, I have this question on equipment finance, Jesse, what do you think? And I'm like, it's not me, that's Bob. Talk to Bob. He will lead you down the right path. For me, I like to specialize in being more of a fractional CRO. in doing contract negotiations between service providers and equipment finance companies, because that was always I don't know, really a disastrous process the majority of the time. And it's the hardest part sometimes when you start an engagement. It's like, dotting your I's and crossing your T's, but you have to do it. So if you understand where the majority of the skeletons lie or where the pain points are, let's focus on those first, get through them, come up with some reasonable items, and then let's move on to the project. So from my perspective, that's where my kind of skill sets lie, where it's like, well, hey, do you have someone who can do this? Yeah, I have somebody. From a fractional CRO, that's always something that I enjoy. And I have a handful of clients I'm doing that with now, where it's just coming in, understanding, okay, what are your business items today? Well, why are you doing this line of business if it's not profitable? This is a profitable line of business. Well, let's focus on that. You survey the customers, you understand kind of their market approach, the pricing. Okay, maybe we focus more on that, and let's just not go chase this right now.
Got it. Yep. Okay. Well, that makes sense. So you've been busy. How long's it been now?
I mean, I think I hit the ground running at the end of December. So within, I guess, first 5 full months, we have 10 clients and a handful of others. So now it's at the point where it's like, okay, I need to get more people.
Oh yeah,
it's a good problem to have, right?
Yeah. You realize you can't work around the clock, right?
Yeah, that's why I call you up and I'm like, Bob, what do I do here?
Get more people. You figured it out.
Well, and it kind of goes back to a comment that you made on our first, interview that we had a year and a half ago, where you can pretty much tell on that first discovery call with a client if it's going to be a good fit. And it's just telling that straight up.
Yeah, it doesn't take long to figure that one out, right?
No, after actually 5 minutes, when someone sits there and they tell you how great they are, and it's like, well, then why are you talking to me? You obviously have all this needed.
Yeah. Keep doing it.
Yeah, you keep doing it. Oh, and by the way, my price is doubled if you actually want to make this work, because that's probably what it's going to take to be painful enough for you to listen to somebody other than yourself.
Yeah, I agree. No, I got that completely. Well, thanks for the update. It was great interviewing today, Jesse.
I appreciate. I don't really talk about myself other than just maybe humiliating something about me. So appreciate you giving me the forum there. But as far as like as far as Rinaldi Advisory Services, you just brought on a gentleman. I want to say last week I saw the press release, and I think since last time we spoke, Brett Davis is there. So you want to talk about the updates to your group?
So obviously, it was Harry was first to really join me, Harry Kaplan, and working on a financial institution side. And then Chris Geppetta, who kind of like me, started off as a broker and became a lessor, grew up from there, sold his company to a bank, put in 7 years, left, took a little time off, came and joined me. So he works mostly with the independents and some banks. And then, the next thing we needed was, I thought be really helpful. And when it comes to needing, for me, it's about, people that I want to work with, that I've always enjoyed being around. And I'd always said someday I'd love to be able to work with them. And, if they're those kind of people, there's always a place where we can make stuff happen, where it's a one-on-one, 1 + 1 = 3 kind of thing. But Brett's expertise, obviously coming from running and leading C&H Capital globally, really, and huge experience on that side all over the world. And so Brett's strength, obviously, in ag and construction, and especially on the dealer side, knowing all the dealers and the whole dealer channel and all how the F&I departments work. And we've been collaborating a bit on that. And just two very solid industries, ag and construction, are two of the biggest industries in equipment leasing. So we've been working together, and we're working with clients to basically expand their minds a little bit into both the ag space and a little bit deeper into understanding the construction space, but more from a dealer standpoint, as well as the equipment. But Brett is, besides also being an attorney, Brett's just an incredibly powerful dude and knows this business code and knows everybody in the business. And one thing we come to figure out is that in the leasing industry, the independents are going after, in many cases, vendor programs, and they're reaching out to vendors and distributors and dealers uh, from strictly the finance side, but not really understanding that most of these places have an F&I department. And we do handle I to an extent, the insurance side, and that's, damage and, replacement value, blah, 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 blah. We do that, but we don't really understand all the other things in the insurance side, like warranty and that kind of stuff, where if you're truly working with a dealership hand in hand, you really want to make yourself sticky, cater to the whole F&I process, not just the vendor side of finance. But if you do it all, you got to get the magic ticket. And that's where Brett and I, Brett's for sure knows that side, and how the insurance side can actually make the dealer a whole lot more money than just the financing side, because you can get a lot of warranty parts work and repair work. So, that's kind of, one of the things that Brett is working on, and so we hope to kind of unveil something here new in the very near future. And then Mike Varney, the way anybody would think of Mike, I mean, he's just a very strong, young, capable CTO, Chief Technical Officer. And I ran into him when the last bank I sold my last company to, he was their CTO for the bank. So a community bank. So in a regulated environment, this guy, in working at a community bank, knows how to make things happen on a very tight budget. And so in dealing with people who really aren't technologically savvy, which are your CEOs and the CFOs of the community banks. And so making all this stuff work so that you can report adequately to the regulators and compliance and all that kind of stuff. So, there's, as I said before, they're just not, most independents, and they can't afford to have a full-time CTO, and nor have the luxury to have that. Some of the bigger ones, yes, but most don't. And having somebody to help you design your technology stack and looking at it from a big picture window, as opposed to just thinking technology means I need a front end, I need a back end. I mean, there's a lot more, there's a lot more to it than that. And when it comes to an exit strategy, without, being able to talk about your technology stack is a bit limiting, and probably not doing yourself a really great service from generating a premium for your company without having a really good understanding of your technology and where you're going from here, and how, more importantly, how are you going to scale it? So that's kind of where, when we take the whole breadth of Rinaldi Advisory Services and the whole team, not to mention Elisa, which is the other network alliance partners like John Gerson on talent side and Tom Ware, the best there is in the business on data and credit analytics, credit metrics, data analytics as it relates to that, probably is the default, anything along that side. So in operations, so I think we've got a pretty dynamic team that most, any of our clients are going to find something somewhere that our team can help them be a better company. And that's kind of our, the objective. And I just love this industry, and I love everybody in the industry. A lot of the people working with, are my best friends in my lifetime now are really people from our industry. People like Dave Schaefer and Tony Crecchiola and Ralph Petta, and the list goes on and on and on and on. So anyway, that's kind of what new here. So hopefully I got that done pretty quickly for you, but I probably enjoyed your interview a little bit more than mine.
Oh, come on now. So, what are you seeing out there, in the industry right now? I mean, interest rates just went up again. Halfway through this year, I guess we've been in this proverbial recession, or not recession. We might be. I mean, it's like,
Paul Fogel and I run this, what we call an executive experience for NEFA, and we do it probably every 2 or 3 months, where we have Zoom calls with the CEOs of a lot of the top funding sources in the country. And we talk about all kind of different things. And matter of fact, it's gotten so popular, we got to break it up into 2 back-to-back concurrent sessions, a group A and a group B. And one of the
Wow.
things we were talking about is we're trying to understand, are we really seeing a recession across the board, or is it limited to a couple specific areas? And it seemed just consensus was obviously the problem right now is in the over the road truck trailer on a small end. Delinquencies are really picked up. Charge-offs have picked up. It's because the freight rates are down. Question is, have we reached a bottom? Well, there's some data that came out here not long ago, about a week ago, that it looks like, yeah, we probably have reached a bottom, because inventory is, from new truck trailer inventory is picking up and sales are strong, which are contradictory to the fact that why freight rates are down. So I think we might be coming out of that. But
Yeah.
across the board, nobody else has any other specific. We asked, are there any other asset categories, specific industry categories that got a problem? And across the board, it was no. As a matter of fact, we're doing very well this year, and numbers are up, applications are up, bookings are up, volumes up. Yeah, I saw the ELFA is off 8% or something like that. I forget what the number was.
Yeah.
Survey they did.
April's, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how to answer that. There's just a part of this is the biggest players in our industry are banks, and banks have been husbanding resources since the fallout of Silicon Valley Bank and the other, can't remember the other name of the bank, but
Yep.
at the end of the day, they're pulling back their lending, obviously, to husband their capital. And if they are lending, then some of them are even adding something we used to hear back in 2008, 9, a liquidity premium, which just means it's an extra price I'm going to charge you to hope you will say no, and I don't have to say no. And it's their kind of way of saying, no, we'll just raise the price so much that if you're going to do it, then we're definitely going to have to make more money on it. And so that could be it. The banks could be pulling back. Again, they have the largest dollars of the industry, of the proportion of the dollars. So that would make some sense. But I'm not seeing it across the board in small ticket leasing or smaller independent lessors, and even some pretty good sized lessors. I don't see that pulling back there very much. As a matter of fact, it's probably a good time for the independents right now. So
Yeah, I see more of that than anything else. When it's like you go on the road and you stop in, you see a half dozen people, and the independents are sitting there just kind of like, oh yeah, we had another record month, or we're doing good apps. We have all this stuff here. We're on target.
yeah,
We're a little cautious, and then the banks are like, oh my God, I don't know what's going on. It's like, well, number one, you can't compete on rate anymore. In theory, they can't. So, and then they're tightening their box and everything else, and it's like they're driving that. So I could definitely see that leading to some of that.
Yeah, no, I
volume.
mean, it may have a trickle down effect to leasing companies who are borrowing from banks or selling to banks. They could be pulling back. They could be raising their underlying rate, which they are. They're under, if you have lines of credit, they're raising the rates. But at least you can get a deal done at a higher rate than not do a deal at all, because you don't want to do a deal. You want to husband your resources. So, I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm still having a hard time seeing where a recession is going to come into play, unless, of course, the Fed keeps playing the game and we're just going to quarter point everybody 25 bips every month and a half until something cracks, which hopefully for them as the economy they would rather that crack than inflation stay high. So I don't. This is a time when independents should be doing well, and this is also a good time when banks with more thoughtful, aggressive, postured CEOs, are willing to buck the trend. When everybody else is running out the building, they're going in. It's and there are some very aggressive CEOs who run very good banks, and they are using this chance to generate more assets. And yeah, everybody's concerned about deposits, but many of the community banks smaller ones anyway, don't seem to be having that problem.
Sure. And some of these like independents that have been investing in this technology for all these years that the banks just competed on rate. It's technology, customer service. They know their collateral very well. They just have all these programs.
Sure.
They're just kind of, they say cleaning up, but for lack of better terms, they're used to charging higher rates because of the value that they bring to the end lessor, I guess lessee, have you, or I don't know. Been a long morning here. It's a Friday. It's a
You're a
Friday.
technologist. That's or lessee. What's the difference?
The person who's actually
Whatever. I get it.
But yeah, so I mean, and I guess from an M&A perspective, like, are there any rumblings out there right now? You know, is it cold? Anything
you
there?
know, if a good leasing company, independent, is interested in selling and getting a premium, he can do it today, right?
Okay.
But you got to go down a little bit different paths with these banks. You can't go to the regular groups of banks that have been buying leasing companies all along. You know, there are a lot of good sized banks. You know, I like to think, you know, our target bank for RAS is anywhere between, I'd say 4 to 5 billion on up to about 40 billion in assets. And there are quite a few in that group that have no leasing activity at all, don't have a leasing business, but they're dying for assets because now commercial real estate is really tanking. And the regulators have been talking to them, they've been blue in the face about they need to reduce your reliance on commercial real estate. But that's the only thing that they're good at, because the big banks don't want to do small commercial real estate deals. And that's how they compete. That's where they get their business, and not very creative. You know, you just got to have capital, and you can do those all day long. But now they need other C&I assets, not real estate. And that's kind of really where our game is in leasing. Equipment leasing is a prime C&I asset. So yeah, if they want to, an independent wants to sell and they're a good, well-run group, yeah, they can get a hell of a nice premium right now. They surely can. But you just got to know where to go look for them, you know, not the usual suspects. And know
that's
which
why, and that's why you call up Bob, and Bob tells you who you should be looking at.
No, I may tell you that, or I may wait till you engage me, then I'll tell you that. I'm just kidding.
Hey, I've learned that too. I've learned that little tidbit on the consulting side, where they get you a 30-minute call to death, where it's like, hey, I got a question. Hey, I got a question. Like,
yeah,
the point is like, seriously?
Yeah, exactly. I'm like a hotel room. If I'm not used that day and paid for, it's gone.
I don't. Lessons I continue to learn, and I'm sure we'll continue down that path there. But
no, there's activity out there for sure.
Well, and some of the newer entrants, I guess, not many, but some of the stuff I'm seeing is more on the middle ticket side. I haven't seen any of the small or micro ticket people getting in, which maybe makes sense based on what's going on. I don't know if you've seen any similar patterns to organizations coming into equipment finance.
I don't know. Now that you mention it, no, I haven't seen a flurry getting into it. New entrants lately. No,
I know there's some the people who were looking to start up, I don't know, 18 months ago, the smaller ticket people, those people that were experts, and they were acquired and they were looking to do something. Okay, what's our next run? Auxiliary side, because I think they've been around for quite a while. I think that's probably the one, but that's an independent that specializes in that vendor dealer program that you were talking about before. But outside of that, it seems like those smaller ones, they didn't get across the finish line with their primary funding partners to get going. But the mid-ticket ones were more, I wasn't sure if, I kind of understand maybe why, but just wanted to get your thoughts.
Mid-ticket's a tough one for independents, because if you're really sure you're going to be middle market and middle ticket, unless you're going to cater to the lower end of the middle market, you can't really get the kind of rate you need. And the rate you need to be providing is the rate only mostly banks can provide, because you just got a lower cost of funds. It might do a better, for sure they'll do a better job of it than the bank, but they just don't have the cost of funds to compete.
Yeah, sure. Sure.
So no, I think, things are, I think right now people have just, they're waiting and seeing. It's mostly because the banks are not in the market, pushing the market. And if they're not pushing the market, looking for acquisitions, then the independent lessors are probably not. They don't know where to go to chase them, and if they're not chasing them, so that's probably why it might seem it's a little quiet.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, it's all about an exit strategy, and that's kind of one of the things we do is we work with independents to develop that exit strategy. It's not so much to sell you right now. It's if you're going to sell, do it thoughtfully over a period of time so that you can get the company in a state that it's going to most likely be most attractive to the most number of people, versus you decide to sell this year and you have to sell with what you have. In some cases, it's like, turning a sow's ear into a silk purse. I mean, you got to do that for as best as you can, but at the end of the day, it's really tough. As opposed you had planned on it and your ultimate buyer, what they're going to be. They're going to be a bank, and what they're looking for is what, it's kind of how we gear most of our clients that we're working on that kind of a exit strategy basis, which is a 2 to 3 year process.
Yeah, I was going to say that brings up another good question where it's, majority of assets that these organizations have are the people, the teams that have built these independents throughout the years. So like, how does that conversation go? Where it's like, by the way, we're going to sell you to a bank, but you still need to be here, because if you're not here as the president, but I guess if you go in there, you're probably already thinking about that, and you figure out the best way to have a successful exit strategy as opposed to quick and dirty.
That's all part of the exit strategy. You got to think through that, because there's likely to be variance of age between the owners, and if you have that, then you got to prepare what comes next and who's going to stay and who's going to go. And if you are going to, you do want to ultimately get out, but you're going to want the most aggressive, highest premium, and they're going to want somebody running this thing, and there's going to be an earnout over a period of years, right? To keep everybody's, 2-3 years to keep everybody interested. But ultimately, they know that that the original owners are going to go at some point in time, or not, depends their age. But then he's already built a succession plan team, strong management team. Just like for example, KLC had a strong management team, and was planned all along and built all along. And kudos to Mark Keatman and Spencer Thomas and their team. They just got a spectacular team behind them that run the organization. So yeah, that was perfect.
No, excellent. I'm gonna shift a little bit if you don't mind. So in 2023, you had a new addition to your family. So people probably watching this want to know.
Have you already heard her in the background?
I have not heard her. I have not. I can't. These AirPods, or AirPods are pretty good with sound. But no, maybe you can. But so
I can hear a little bit.
Let's talk about that experience, if you don't mind.
No. I'm
and by the way, Bob was not prepped for this question, and he was wondering how he was going to take it.
No, I tell you what, I'm truly blessed. My wonderful wife Emily is she had her first child in February 7th, and it's been the baby's Sarah Ross Rinaldi has been just a complete blessing, and a very sweet child with a wonderful mom who takes very good care of her, and just is bundle of joy for us, truly. And it's fun second time around. I have to say it's a little easier, but it is kind of fun. I have to tell you, it's almost comical, really, if we ever go out somewhere at a restaurant together, and the comments we get are everything. Oh, so you're babysitting your granddaughter tonight? To no, she's mine. Oh, really? And then sometimes I'll just, I don't want to embarrass them. I say, yeah, I'm out with my granddaughter.
I mean, at the end of the
So-
day, they're just trying to create conversation. But you're like, I had that happen with Rory when we took her to Disney, and I think she was 2. And at the time, I was what, 38. Bob,
Yeah.
39. Oh, is it Sarah? Oh, look at her.
There's Sarah Ross.
Hey, Eddie.
Hey, can't wait to lease some equipment.
Yeah.
Say goodbye.
Oh, that's awesome. She's beautiful.
There's Sarah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. I don't
Said,
think she
thank
can
you,
hear me.
Emily. Jesse.
Oh, that's
All right.
awesome. But anyhow, at Disney, I had someone come up. We were trying to get on the merry-go-round, and they were like, "Oh, can I get a? Would you like a picture with you and your granddaughter?" And Brooke was sitting right there and heard it, and smile went ear to ear, and I'm just like, "Oh."
You get used to it.
Hmm.
I get used to it. Some of the things I've heard has just been incredible.
Yeah, whatever. People are people, and they will always just be people. I guess we'll just leave it at that.
Yep.
But
Anyway.
what's the next show you're gonna go to?
Oh, I think I think I'm coming to yours.
Okay. You gonna be in Baltimore, or are you gonna be at the golf event?
The golf.
Okay. Perfect.
Anyway. We may need to break off at this point.
Oh no, it's okay. If it makes you feel any better, I can't hear her because these are noise canceling. So if she's crying or screaming or whatever, these are great. Otherwise, you'd hear this
That's
music.
good. You can't hear. Okay, maybe that's it.
Yeah. No, I can't hear anything. But I do want to thank you and Rinaldi Advisory Services for all the assistance and being a diamond sponsor for EF Cares. It greatly means a lot, Bob.
It's our pleasure. It's all our pleasure. The industry's been very good to all of us and the team and our families. And anyway, what you're doing is incredible. It's showing a completely different face of our business, and that's probably our better face, and all the things all the various independent leasing companies do for their communities. So anyway, Jesse,
All right,
thank you so much for your time.
I appreciate you, man. You enjoy the rest of your Friday, and I look forward to seeing you in August.
You got it. Take care.
All right, have a good one. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.